The Dice Odyssey.
Oh, hello! Sorry for the startled look. You frightened me. Yes, spies do get frightened. That's why we carry these. Kasman Bond here. Perhaps you've heard of me. Well, I know you've heard of my cousin, Jimmy Bond. Admittedly, I'm not as popular as he is, but I aim to please. Oh, what this? This is nothing but a trinket. Bear it no mind. But I have a dilemma. Could you tell me where I am? Not even sure where here is. It makes no sense to me thematically, but you know, I've got a solution. Maybe if I listen to the people around me, as they ask each other absurd questions, and even me, I might ask an absurd question, and I listen to the vague responses, I might be playing Spyfall. Let's get this to the table, shall we?
Basically, there's 30 different locations to choose from, so it doesn't get, boring anytime soon. And then you got your rule book here, which has all the locations mapped out. I mean, you could be at an embassy, an ocean liner, a passenger train, a hospital, a beach, the bank. I mean, you name it. There's so many different locations to choose from. The only thing I would say, I kind of wish that they included a reference sheet of this type, not just in the rule book. Maybe 8 of them for each player, so that way we're not having to pass this thing around. We have worn this book out a little bit. So that's maybe one little, issue I've got with the game, but not a big one. Nothing like a game breaker. Anyway, the way that it's going to look, though, is you're going to have the spy card on top, right, and then you've got your locations. Now, of course, when you're dealing it out, you're not going to know the location immediately. Heck, you're not even going to be sure if you're going to get the spy card when you deal it out. But what you're going to do is, let's say we've got like 5 people at the table. So what you'd have is you take the spy card out, at least that's what we do, and then you take out 4 more cards on top of it to deal out, and then the 5th one would be your spy card. And then you shuffle that up and then start dealing it out to each player, right? Well, one person is going to end up not knowing where they are. Everyone else is going to have the exact same location card. In this case, it's going to be the restaurant. Now, don't pay too much attention to the bottom left here. We're more concerned about what it says and how the card looks, the general idea, because the bottom left has different roles for each person if you want to play a different variant in the game. That is not what we're doing. We're just doing the standard rules. So, if, for example, what you would do at the table, you'd start asking general questions, vague questions of each person, and you'd be looking at the card. Now, you're not necessarily trying to, ask. We've had this happen where people start asking questions specific to the card itself. That's a little too meta, so what we do is we try to give a general overview of what we think of a restaurant. So, for example, somebody might ask, what are the smells you smell around here? And I would say, generally pretty good. I generally like the smells that are around here. Or somebody might ask, hey, do you like the food in this location? And I might be like, well, yeah, I really like the food. Now, of course, if I'm the spy, I might not know what to answer. That's where the interesting aspect of this game comes in. And what you'll do is you're gonna go ahead and pick people at the table. You can pick anybody you want. Doesn't matter who it is. But the thing is, if you ask a specific person a question, they then, once they answer and everybody's satisfied with that answer, they then now get to choose somebody at the table except you to ask a question of. So remember, if, like, say Bob over here asks me a question, well, if I answer satisfactorily and everybody at the table's happy with it, I can't then just go, hey, Bob, by the way, let me ask you a question back. I have to choose somebody new at the table. Now, that doesn't mean I'll never be able to ask Bob a question. That just means that at some point in the future, if he didn't ask me a question right before, I could go ahead and say, hey, Bob, by the way, I want to ask you a question now. So that does happen. Now, there is a point system in the game. In the rule book, it's in there. I'll let y'all read that for yourself. We typically never play with the actual point system. We play the one versus all variant, which is basically, there's a spy, you're trying to suss them out, and if they win, they win, and if we win, we all win except the spy. That's how we play, and quite frankly, it's a lot more fun that way, we think. Now, the other aspect to this is, at any point in time, anybody in the game can go, hey, I want to raise an accusation. And at that point, you're going to stop the timer on, most of the time, somebody has a timer going on a phone somewhere, and you're going to stop the timer, it stops the game, and you have to then make an accusation of the person you think at the table might be the spy. And you have to make a good enough case because you have to get a unanimous vote to actually win. If you do not get a unanimous vote, not only do you not win, but you also don't get another time to accuse anybody. So you better make that first time count. Now, at any point in time, if the spy figures out from all the questions that have been asked, maybe where y'all are, they can now flip their card and go, hey, by the way, give me the rule book. I'm going to take a look at the locations. I think we're here. If they're right, they win the game. If they're not, they lose. And that in general, besides maybe a couple other rules that are very self-explanatory, that's in general how you play.
So what do I think of this game? Spyfall for me, well, it's become one of my laugh out loud favorites. I'll pull it out when I have a gathering of anywhere between, 5 to 10 people, maybe more. It's got a lot of those hilarious laugh out loud gut busters. You know what I'm saying? Like, for example, I said something similar in family business where your brain starts hurting, right? From laughing so much. That's kind of what Spyfall does for me because you've got all these people at the table, right? And we're all given that location except that one person who's a spy. So let me give you an example. Let's say we're all sitting there and we've got the hospital. And by the way, if I give you any examples at all, it's because it has happened to us. It doesn't matter how absurd it sounds. But let's say we're at the hospital, okay? And somebody, asks the spy the question, right? They haven't been asked yet necessarily, but all of a sudden the question is asked of them. So, what do you think of the food here? Not saying it's the hospital, obviously. And of course the spy goes, I think it's pretty darn good. Well, guess what? You're now on my hit list. You're now on my you've got heat list, and we automatically are going to start suspecting you because who thinks hospital food is that good? Have you had their Jell-O? So, it's just those kind of moments where somebody asks a question and sometimes the answer's so hilarious you can't help but double over in laughter because then they know they've been found out. Or sometimes the questions themselves turn out to be so absurd and hilarious. Even sometimes they become meta, So that's what I mean by this game is pretty fun and hilarious. It is a great party game. And the thing I like about it, there's a couple key things. First off, it is funny. Sometimes you just need those lighthearted, hilarious games to play with. Secondly, it's ever so brief. I love the fact that the highest you're going to go, unless you're fudging the time clock a little bit, is going to be 8 minutes. Because it's only a minute for each person there. And this game goes up to 8, right? So that's why I like this game. I mean, I've played this game probably 10 times in one sitting in one night because we loved it that much. And the good thing is, if you've got a big group of people, and not everybody's able to get in on the game, because again, it goes only up to 8 for the max amount of players, then you can actually, we've done this before ourselves, you can actually sub people in and out, because typically, not all the time will the game even go up to 8 minutes. A lot of the times you'll either find the spy out, or the spy will guess where you are. Now, that's not always the case. Sometimes it goes up to 8 minutes, but you don't care because it's so quick. And the cool thing is, the people on the outside
a lot of the times they're going to be watching you guys anyway because they're laughing at you and they're also trying to figure out who the spy is as well. So people are involved on the outside. Technically, nobody gets left out. And so, yeah, I think this game's great. I would say maybe the only thing I would say would be a drawback, and this is personal experience, and I've seen this, is you've got those shy people in your game groups, right? I mean, we've got them. I'm sure you've got them. And sometimes that person gets the spy card. Now, not all the time will that matter to them, but especially if they get it a couple of times in a row, yeah, they're not going to want to be the spy again. I've had games where a friend of mine has been like, I'm telling you right now, if I get the spy card again, I'm going to just say I'm the spy just so we can redeal the whole deck because I'm tired of being the spy. The thing about it for them, whoever maybe the shy person at the table is, you're going to be pressured if you're the spy. That's just naturally what's going to happen. You're going to have that pressure and that tension on you if everybody's trying to figure out who I am because they're looking specifically for me. They're looking for the guy who's not part of the group. One of these is not like the other kind of thing. And it is a lot of pressure on them. Now, for me, I'm very outgoing. It doesn't bother me as much. But for them, they really don't like it. And, if you're that kind of person that doesn't like that one versus all feeling, where it's you against the world, you may or may not like this game. But quite frankly, because the game is so short, I mean, each game is subsequently 8 minutes at best, right? So most often you're going to be dealt out and a new card anyway. Most of the time will be dealt out a location card. So, it's something that you can easily mitigate because of the time. And so it's not something that's usually a big issue at the table. But like I said, I have seen it at least a couple of times. But I think it's now been hundreds of times we've played this. I've played this with my family. I've played this with friends. I've played this at social gatherings. I've never seen this really go wrong. I mean, like I said, almost every single person at the table for the complete duration loves this game. Every time we play it, and most of the time they're going, let's play it again. Let's play it again. Let's play it again. So again, this has not been a game I've ever really seen fail. I've seen other games similar to this that have gone and just dropped hard, right? But this game is not one of them. So yeah, I would say this is a 2 thumb up kind of game, right? This is a game that I would highly recommend, especially if you're a social person, if you're somebody who loves to not necessarily have a board in front of you all the time, but actually get to dialogue with the people at the table. And you're almost, in a sense, negotiating, trying to convince people you are not the spy. Look, I'm telling you right now, I'm not the guy, and these are the reasons why. Why don't you look at him? Look at his answers. Let's go back over those. So, yeah, again, great game. Highly recommend it. I think you'll have a blast with it. And yeah, that's going to be all for me. I'd love it if you'd like and subscribe and share. And please leave a comment down below. Let me know what your favorite type of game is that has to do with like hiding in plain sight. Whether it be a trader type game or a game like Spyfall where you're hiding and trying not to let everybody else know who you are. Please let me know that. And as for me, thanks so much for watching the Dice Odyssey. I'm Kasman. May you have a blessed day.